Hello all, welcome to Malhotra's IAS. So continuing the series further in which we are discussing about the mains answers of 2022 examination. So yesterday we discussed about AMC and polity. Today we are discussing about international relations. So this is the schedule which we have already shared with you. So as of now, I am bringing to you the international relations session. In the evening we will be getting the social issues session and so on, as the routine will continue as per the schedule. So now let us continue and talk about the session of international relations. So if we talk about international relations form a very intrinsic part of general studies paper 2. So in general studies paper 2, yesterday as we discussed about polity, so in today's session when we talk about IR, so in IR UPSC has been following a very consistent pattern since last few years. So there are 2 questions of 10 marks and 2 questions of 15 marks since last couple of years. So मोटा मोटा अगर हम बात करें 50 नंबर का जो पेपर है 50 marks is being asked out of the international relations since last few years. So this year also UPSC asked 50 marks out of international relations. So if we analyze the international relations exam or international relations paper, so what we can find is that the questions were related on a similar pattern, that is the pattern of current affairs. अब IR के लिए ना बहुत सारे लोग बोलते हैं ये किताब पढ़ लो, X बुक, Y बुक, Z बुक कोई पढ़ लो. अब UPSC का अगर आप पेपर देखते हैं कुछ पिछले कुछ सालों का अगर आप UPSC का पेपर देखें तो आपको ये अंदाजा होगा, you can analyze this, that UPSC is majorly asking the questions from current affairs perspective. इस बार भी UPSC ने वही ट्रेंड जारी रखा. UPSC continued that trend and carry forward that trend where UPSC is talking about the international relations from the current perspective. So the 4 questions that UPSC asked, first question was related to Sri Lanka. Now you all know, if you are following the current affairs, अगर आप अखबार न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ रहे हैं, अखबार पढ़ रहे हैं, मैगजीन्स देख रहे हैं या हमारे वीडियोस देख रहे हैं, so you all know that Sri Lankan crisis were the talking point throughout the world. So UPSC asked one question on Sri Lanka and that question was related to the topic that is given in the syllabus, that is India and its neighborhood relations. Right. So the second question was related to BIMSTEC and SAARC. Now BIMSTEC, you know, there was a charter that was released or the meeting of BIMSTEC, and moreover the government's increasing presence of or emphasis on BIMSTEC. So the second question was related to the BIMSTEC. Now this is again asked from the bilateral and the regional groupings topic given in your syllabus. The third question was related to I2U2. Now again this I2U2, which is also known as mini quad, became very important or very debatable topic or the contentious topic from the perspective of Iran and India relations, and we will discuss the couple of things. And moreover India's increasing presence in West Asia became or made it more important. So India-Israel relation, that is one issue. So this was asked again out of the bilateral, regional and the global groupings. And the fourth question was related to a very important topic, that is related to environment. Now in environment, India has a continuous changing stand, and our Prime Minister Mr. Modi, wherever he goes on the international platforms and international forums, he emphasizes upon the role of the environment or very important climate change agreements in which India has taken a lot of initiatives. So that became a very important topic, and that issue was asked out of important international institutions, agencies, fora and their structure and their mandates and the policy of the government of India. So these are the topics out of which the questions were asked by UPSC this year. So now let us talk about the first question that was related to India Sri Lanka. So the question goes like this, that India is an age-old friend of Sri Lanka. Discuss India's role in the recent crisis of Sri Lanka in the light of the preceding statement. So statement क्या है? Statement है India is an age-old friend of Sri Lanka. So this question had to be answered in 10 marks, that is 150 words. So ये कह रहा है कि India is an age-old friend of Sri Lanka. Now as you can see that the question is related to discuss India's role. Discuss India's role in the recent crisis in Sri Lanka in the light of the preceding statement. What is the preceding statement? India is the age-old friend of Sri Lanka. Right. So what can be the introduction? So the introduction, now first you know the issue, right? You know the issue, that the issue was related to the shortage of food crisis or the shortage of food, the soaring prices, the default in payments. This was the issue related in Sri Lanka. Now what you can start or write in the introduction is about that India and Sri Lanka has a civilizational ties. India supported Sri Lanka in Sri Lankan civil war. You can mention here Rajiv agreement, right? Then you can talk about the post-war reconstruction where India has helped Sri Lanka in the Jaffna crisis or the Jaffna region, where India is talking about the development of houses, and India helped Sri Lanka in that, and also India helped Sri Lanka post the 2000 war tsunami. And then there are a lot of trade relations between India, and then there is a fisherman related issue as well, or fisherman related relation within India and Sri Lanka as well. So these are the issues which can be reflective of India and Sri Lanka as age old friends. Now in the recent crisis, what help India has done? The question primarily talks about the recent crisis. Now in the recent crisis, what India has done, India has supplied critical material like food and energy support to Sri Lanka, because now Sri Lanka में crisis क्यों है? Now they are not asking about asking to you in this question that why there was crisis in Sri Lanka. So don't start mentioning in this answer that Sri Lanka में crisis है, default for payment एक बहुत बड़ा issue था, उसके बाद आप देखो कि उसमें जो उनकी agriculture policy थी that became an issue. So they are not asking about that. Right, so when we talk about this understanding, so you can say India's assistance to Sri Lanka, USD 400 currency, credit for essentials, deferred settlement, India's neighborhood policy. So these can be the issues in which India and Sri Lanka can be talked about. Now if we talk about this India Sri Lanka relation, so let us understand this idea. So India Sri Lanka में हमने बात कर ली कि हम इंट्रोडक्शन के पोर्शन में ये कह सकते हैं कि किस तरह से इंडिया श्रीलंका के सिविलाइजेशनल टाइज हैं. Right, and this civilizational ties can be related to the management of old relations. Then there is civil wars जो हमने बात करी. Then there is post-war reconstruction, etc., etc. In the body portion of this answer, you could have written that what India has provided, the food material India has provided, then you can talk about the energy resource that India has provided, the line of credit India has given, and how India has helped Sri Lanka even at the international platforms like this. So that could have been the reason. And second thing that was related to this was the understanding of the conclusion, and the conclusion can be very, very simple, where you can talk about, in the conclusion you can talk about the India neighborhood policy, or the India's neighborhood first policy of Prime Minister Modi, So second thing that you can talk about in this is the Gujarat Doctrine. Now when you talk about the Gujarat Doctrine, so the Gujarat Doctrine emphasizes on this idea of non-reciprocity. So this non-reciprocity becomes a very important conception of this particular answer. So you could have concluded that for India, neighborhood first has been a very pragmatic or a primary approach, and similarly secondly the Gujarat Doctrine which talks about non-reciprocity. So this could have been your answer of this particular question. So this became a very important or an easy understanding of this particular question. The second question was related to BIMSTEC. Now the question says, do you think that BIMSTEC is a parallel organization like SAARC? तो पहला क्वेश्चन तो ये हो गया, do you think that BIMSTEC is a parallel organization? Second is, what are the similarities and dissimilarities between the two? The similarities and dissimilarities between the two. The third is, how are Indian foreign policy objectives realized by forming this new organization? तो ये क्वेश्चन 10 मार्कर है सर, ये क्वेश्चन 10 मार्कर है, 150 वर्ड्स लिखने हैं और सवाल 3 है. First question is, do you think that BIMSTEC is a parallel organization like SAARC? Second, what are the similarities and dissimilarities between the two? And third, how are Indian foreign policy objectives realized in the forming of this organization? तो कितना मजेदार सवाल है. तो ये मैप मैंने उठाया है, मैप डाला है मैंने. ये मैप जो था आपका एक न्यूज़पेपर में आया था, आई थिंक इट वाज टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया, वेयर दे शोड दिस मैप और प्रेजेंटेड दिस मैप. तो वहां से हमने ये मैप उठाया है और इसमें हमने बताया है कि BIMSTEC का बेसिक क्या है. राइट, दैट BIMSTEC इज दिस इज द फुल फॉर्म, दिस वाज फॉर्म्ड, एंड दिस इज द इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ BIMSTEC. राइट, सो नाउ let us talk about that first idea, that do you think that BIMSTEC is a parallel organization? So SAARC, आप introduction में लिख सकते हो that SAARC was formed in 1985, which is a regional organization meant for the cooperation among South Asian countries, and BIMSTEC, which was formed in 1997, is a trans-regional organization integrating South Asia and Southeast Asia. तो आपको पता होना चाहिए कि SAARC जो है ना वो regional organization है. SAARC का primary focus South Asia है, whereas BIMSTEC जो है वो एक ट्रांस रीजनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है जो साउथ एशिया और साउथ ईस्ट एशिया को इंटीग्रेट करता है, साउथ एशिया और साउथ ईस्ट एशिया की नेसेसिटीज और नीड्स को इंटीग्रेट करता है. तो ये आप इंट्रोडक्शन में लिख सकते थे. अगर हम दूसरे पॉइंट पे जा रहे हैं, वेयर दे आर सेइंग व्हाट आर सिमिलरिटीज एंड डिसिमिलरिटीज, अगर हम सिमिलरिटीज की बात करें तो सिमिलरिटीज जो हैं वो फंक्शनिंग ऑफ द टू ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के ऊपर रिलाई की जा सकती हैं. सो इट कैन बी रिलाइड ऑन द फंक्शनिंग. दैट फर्स्ट इज दैट इट बोथ वर्क ऑन द सिमिलर कोऑपरेशन फ्रेमवर्क्स लाइक टेरिटोरियल इंटीग्रिटी, इक्वल सॉवरेनिटी, नॉन इंटरफेरेंस. जैसे पंचशील और जो आपने नैम के प्रिंसिपल्स पढ़े होंगे ना, वैसे ही सार्क और बिम्स्टेक के प्रिंसिपल्स हैं कि हर कंट्री, एवरी कंट्री विल ट्रीट अदर कंट्री इक्वली, दे विल रिस्पेक्ट देयर सॉवरेनिटी, दे विल नॉट इंटरफेयर इनटू ईच अदर्स डोमेस्टिक अफेयर्स. सो दैट इज अगेन वन फैक्टर. सेकंड इज that they have to work on consensus, that every country has to agree. Unanimity का एक बड़ा important principle है. And third is that they will resolve the dispute and try to create the harmony amongst the different nations. So these are the similarities of the BIMSTEC and SAARC. Similarly, these are the dissimilarities. ये आपको मैप जो है वो मिल जाएगा, आपकी PDF जो है वो शेयर कर दी जाएगी, जहाँ पे आप डिसिमिलरिटीज की बात कर सकते हो कि जो सार्क है, इट इज एन प्रोडक्ट ऑफ द कोल्ड वॉर एरा, बिम्स्टेक इज अ पोस्ट कोल्ड वॉर एरा प्रोडक्ट, बिकॉज इन सार्क the primary factor was geopolitical, right, whereas in BIMSTEC the primary factor was geo-economic. Now you think, if you talk about the formation of the SAARC, so SAARC was formed in 1985 and it was the brainchild of Bangladesh. Now this Bangladesh used SAARC or formulated SAARC or made SAARC as an anti-India club. अब देखो इंटरेस्टिंग कहानी है सार्क की, बाद में कभी सुनाएंगे, अगर आपको चाहिए तो हम इसके ऊपर एक डिटेल्ड वीडियो बना सकते हैं, आप कमेंट सेक्शन में बता देना, तो उसके ऊपर डिटेल्ड वीडियो बनाइए कि कहानी क्या है सार्क की, कि सार्क क्यों बना, क्यों फेल हो, इसके ऊपर एक वीडियो बन सकती है कि ओरिजिन कहां से हुआ सार्क का, राइट. सो सिमिलरली कि सार्क सफर्स फ्रॉम रीजनल पॉलिटिक्स बिकॉज ऑफ इंडिया पाकिस्तान, राइट, इंडिया पाकिस्तान के रिलेशन की वजह से सार्क जो है सफर किया, ठीक है. और बहुत सारे ऑथर्स ये बोलते हैं, बहुत सारे कमेंटेटर्स ये बोलते हैं कि सार्क जो है वो खत्म हो चुका है. रीजन क्या है कि सबसे दो बड़ी मेजर इकोनॉमीज है, इनमें डिस्ट्रस्ट है, इनमें मिसट्रस्ट है, इनमें कोऑपरेशन ही नहीं है, ठीक है. इंडिया पाकिस्तान में भाईचारा कहां से लाओगे, राइट, तो वो सिर्फ हमारे को क्रिकेट मैच में दिखता है, बाहर नहीं दिखता है. सो दैट इज द पॉइंट ऑफ सार्क. Similarly, the conclusion you could have written that why BIMSTEC is important for India, Indo-Pacific आप सबको पता है, राइट. देन इकोनॉमिक ट्रेड के लिए बड़ा एडवांटेजियस है, इंटर रीजनल कोऑपरेशन, एब्सेंस ऑफ पाकिस्तान. ये एब्सेंस ऑफ पाकिस्तान एक खुशी की बात है ताकि शायद ये सक्सेसफुल हो जाए. दूसरा है सिक्योरिटी, मैरिटाइम एंड टेरिटोरियल. एंड फोर्थ एंड लास्ट विच इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इज टू काउंटर चाइनाज BRI, that is China's Belt Road Initiative. So this was the answer that could have been written in this particular question. Now the third question was, how will I2U2? Now you know I2U2 means India, Israel, U2 means UAE and USA. Grouping transform India's position in global politics. This was 15 marker, you have to answer in 250 words. तो इसमें आपने क्या लिखना था, इसमें सिंपल सा पूछ रखा है कि किस तरह जो I2U2 है, this will transform India's position in the global world. How it will be advantageous for India in the global arena. तो ये जो है ना, ये टॉपिक क्यों पूछा गया, क्योंकि वेस्ट एशिया की ज्योग्राफी में, वेस्ट एशिया की पॉलिसी में इंडिया का बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट रोल रह रहा है आज के टाइम पे. इंडिया इजराइल की जो नजदीकियां हैं, द प्रॉक्सिमिटी बिटवीन इंडिया एंड इजराइल, दैट इज कंटिन्यूअसली ऑन द राइज. सो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट दिस क्वेश्चन वाज आस्क्ड. सो नाउ it is a minilateral arrangement, India, Israel, USA and UAE, to deal with the issues concerning with maritime security, infrastructure and transport, right. So these are the regions, or these are the issues that were raised by the I2U2 when it was formed. Second is in the region, it was formed after Abraham Accords. Now you know that Abraham Accords kind of formalized the relation between the Arab nations and Israel. So obviously the primary issue that India faced earlier in the West Asian region was that how to manage or how to balance between the Arab regions and the Israel, right. So now when the Arabian countries or the Arab countries are signing the Abraham Accords with Israel, right, UAE signed the Abraham Accords with Israel, so it basically gave India an edge, and now India does not have to oscillate or oscillate between that whether they should go to Arab countries or Arabian countries or whether they should go to the Israel, because now they so there it is a witness, or it can be witnessed very significantly or easily, that there is a kind of cooperation between the Arabian countries and Israel. दोनों ने समझ लिया है कि अब ये तो हैं, ठीक है ना, अब कुछ किया नहीं जा सकता, ये एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, राइट. सो दिस शोज इंडियाज ग्रोइंग प्रेजेंस एंड रेलेवेंस in the region, and India being witnessed or seen as a reliable partner in the West Asian geography. Now what could have been written in the body, that how it will help India, security cooperation, technological hubs, food security, maintain relation with Arab countries and Israel, partner with USA, ट्रेड पोटेंशियल एंड काउंटर चाइना. तो घूम फिर के वही 10-12 बातें हैं, 5-6 बातें हैं जो आपने लिखनी है इस क्वेश्चन में. और आंसर में आप क्या लिख सकते थे कि प्रॉब्लम भी तो है ना इसमें, दैट देयर इज अ फॉर्मेशन ऑफ रशिया चाइना ईरान एक्सिस, व्हिच इज बेसिकली अ वेरी सिग्निफिकेंट कंडीशन फॉर इंडिया, दैट हाउ इंडिया इज गोइंग टू मैनेज दिस इशू. क्योंकि आप देखो ना, इंडिया कैसे होगा कि यूएसए का रिलायबल पार्टनर हो गया इंडिया, तो यूएसए का अगर रिलायबल पार्टनर हो गया तो यूएसए इंडिया को कहां ले गया, वेस्ट एशिया में. अब वहां पे इजराइल इंडिया का दोस्त है, ठीक है, यूएसए का दोस्त है, यूएई इंडिया का दोस्त हो गया. अब यहां से क्या है कि एंटी ईरान एक्सिस बन गया. ईरान जो है वो रशिया और चाइना के पास चला जाएगा. रशिया चाइना आपको पता है कि यूएसए को देख के दूर भागते हैं, तो वहां पे एक रशिया चाइना एक्सिस बन जाता है और ईरान जो है ट्रेडिशनली इंडिया का एक अच्छा दोस्त है. तो हाउ इंडिया इज गोइंग टू बैलेंस ईरान, मोर ओवर रशिया इज ऑल्सो गुड फ्रेंड ऑफ इंडिया, सो हाउ इंडिया इज गोइंग टू बैलेंस रशिया, सो दैट becomes a problem for India. And moreover, if we say that how India's position, so India's position is because to counter China, which is very significant, and USA is looking for balance of power towards India against China. So this was what was to be written in this particular question. Now last question is related to clean energy is the order of the day. Clean energy is the order of the day. So describe briefly India's changing policy towards climate change in the various international fora and context of geopolitics. So you could have written in the introduction the importance of climate change and growing India's concerns, that climate change is a very significant factor. The entire world or all the countries are talking about it, and India has always been at the forefront of tackling climate change, because India, and as the reports of United Nations also say, that the third world countries like India, they are going to be the worst sufferers of the climate change. You see, recently witnessed because of the climate change, look at the floods that were witnessed in Pakistan, look at the drought in China. So that is a result of a climate change. So India always traditionally has been at the forefront to stop this climate change and to help the world tackle this situation. So this could have been your introduction. Now how India's stand has changed. So India's stand of common but differentiated responsibilities, it stays. So India works on a historical background, historical position. India says that the developed world has always taken the most of the advantage of the resources. Now when they have taken the advantage of the resources, they exploited the resources, they have destroyed the environment. Now they are coming and saying कि सब बंद कर दो, इंडिया का ऐसे कैसे बंद कर दो. इंडिया का हमारा गोल कॉमन है. We want the protection of environment. We don't want there should be climate change, but the responsibilities have to be differentiated. कि you have exploited and you have developed yourself for last 100 years. Now for last 200, even more than 100 or 200 years, now we are on the verge of development. It has been just 70 years of a development, and now you are saying that you and I owe equal debt. ये तो वही बात होगी ना कि अगर मैं लोन लूं और विजय माल्या लोन ले, ठीक है ना, विजय माल्या कहेगी मैं भी उतना ही दूंगा जितना तू देगा, है ना. तो इसका कोई सेंस ही नहीं है. इंडिया कहता है थोड़ी होता है. कॉमन बट डिफरेंशिएटेड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज, दैट वी हैव कॉमन गोल्स बट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज विल वेरी. सो दिस इज वन इंडिया's policy. Second is NPCC. Now NPCC, it was recognized that the climate change was acknowledged, and moreover India started the shift towards renewable energies. Then your sustainable development goals, which talk about development, environment protection, Paris Climate Agreement, a very significant position and a very important analysis or very important policy of the government of India, International Solar Alliance. राइट, ये जरूर लिखना था आपने आंसर में, क्योंकि ये इंडिया का बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट इनिशिएटिव एट द वर्ल्ड लेवल, इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस. एंड लास्ट इज इंडियाज डोमेस्टिक पॉलिसीज, रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, ई व्हीकल्स एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, व्हिच शोज इंडियाज चेंजिंग पॉलिसी. राइट, बट आप कंक्लूजन लिख सकते थे दैट इंडिया, although it talks about the climate change or it also talks about tackling of environment or tackling of climate change, but India has always stated that it should not be at the developmental goal, and moreover climate change is necessary so that the vulnerable communities and the developing countries and the least developing countries can benefit, so the developed countries have to take an extra initiative. So this is how you could have answered this question. So I hope you have understood and you are able to attempt these questions and you are liking our analysis series. And if you want that we should make a specific video, any specific topic, so please drop a message in the comment section. So the series will continue. I hope you all keep studying hard, and all the best.